Welcome to Ear for Fear. I'm Rick, and this is the podcast where we talk about scary movies or movies trying to be scary. Today, we're going to be talking about 1982's The Entity. We are joined by our one of our regular guests, Sleep Easy in the Easy, Mr. Darren Lindsay. Hey, man, thanks for coming out.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been a bit. It's been a bit since you've been out, but appreciate it. Hey, before you and I talk about this movie, let's do a quick synopsis. Carla awakens one night to find herself being beaten and sexually assaulted by an unseen presence. Terrified of what's happening to her and shunned by friends and family who think she's lost her mind, she seeks help from a parapsychologist. The researchers soon discover that an evil force has drawn to Carla and is responsible for the violent attacks. Can it be stopped? And will Carla escape from this abstract evil? All right, man. So 1982's The Entity. You had recommended this one.
I did.
Both of us had previously seen this.
Oh, yeah.
You know what's funny? It had been a while. Like, I'd seen this several times over the years, but I think it had been like early to mid 90s since I'd seen this last. That's a long time.
Yeah. Not for me.
Yeah, because you watched it more recently with Shaylee.
Yeah. I think it was one of these weekends where Shaylee was bugging me to do a horror movie. And I'm like, oh, what do we do? I'm like, we settled on some kind of ghost thing. And, we feel like we've really done all of the new ghost movies that are out there. So I started trying to skim the bottom for stuff that maybe she would be interested in. And I don't know what made me think of it, but I was like, oh my God, the Entity. I totally remember that. Like, I wonder if she liked that. And then I started to think about the subject matter, and I'm like,
yeah. And so I'm kind of surprised that she sat there with you and watched this, because rewatching this again yesterday for the show, it'd been a while, but of course I remember it. Yeah. I mean, and we're going to, look, I don't want to use the word rape. Okay. So we'll use it once, get it out of the way. We're just going to say sexually assaulted, because that's basically what's happening to Carla.
Now I can't guarantee you that word won't slip out of my mouth during this podcast. I hate the word too, but I mean, the bottom line is that's what's happening. What's going on here.
Yeah.
But you know what? Yeah. After I had thought about it, before I put the movie on for my daughter, I was thinking about the subject matter, and I'm like, oh God, I don't know. But this became a difficult thing for me, because there are so many movies that I don't have any issue with her watching, in terms of the horror genre, and I started to think, well, I don't know, ethically, like what's the difference between bloody murder and like one sin's as bad as another? So whatever. I mean, I think she's mature enough to understand, what's going on here. So, so we watched it. Yeah. She liked it. I mean, again, who truly loves watching that subject matter? That being said though, she was really freaked out by the movie, I think it's the vibe that movie gives off is really what makes that movie so kind of impactful.
You know what I think it is for me, and rewatching this is it definitely spanks of early 80s. The music immediately sets the tone, which I've said a million times. I'm a sucker for good music.
Speaking of the music, I've got a thing I want to talk to you about.
Okay. Yeah, the score is great.
Oh yeah,
this is a great score.
Oh yeah, it's got that iconic
It really does. It really does. Like, it hits, like if there was like a list and you're check marking all these different elements for a good score or soundtrack or just music in general for a horror movie or a ghost movie, this definitely does it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take long. It doesn't.
No.
This is what now I felt 2 hours is a little long. It was like 2:05, I think.
Was.
It's a little long for a horror movie for me. Look, there's certain movies I can sit through. The Exorcist, The Shining. There's certain ones. I think even Hereditary is a little long. This one felt a little long to me. I felt like maybe you could have sped it up a little bit, but again, you're telling this story, and
you almost needed that. I mean, if you figure that most of these horror movies go hour and a half,
pretty
40?
much hour and a half, yeah.
This movie almost needed that additional 20 to 30 minutes because it has to develop an alternative explanation to what is this woman is experiencing.
Yeah,
because this is based off of a true story.
So interesting. So I was going to ask you about this. You know how many different movies that we hear of, like it's based off of a true story or loosely based, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or like the Conjuring series. What Amityville Horror is late 70s, early 80s. That's again based off of the accounts of the Warrens supposedly. And how much do you think is true, and how much, because at the very end when the credits start to roll, it says something about how Carla, this is a fictionalized account of a true story. Yeah. So to me, it's like, well, what's true and what's not true, and how much do they embellish? And
they Hollywoodized it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they always do. I think the kernel of the story is based in truth, at least her truth.
Sure.
Okay. Did they do some sort of experiment in an auditorium, at a university, and where they did, messed around with liquid helium and, tried to freeze this thing? Probably not. That might have been embellished and been the Hollywoodization of the story. But I would say that, like, the spirit of it, like the core of the story, I think is probably based on the true events, at least from her perspective. This is what I experienced.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, they still have to make an entertaining movie that somebody's going to want to
watch. They do. I mean, because it's a movie instead of, say, a documentary. A documentary is gonna take a different approach to this, and so it's just funny. Like, people always say the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is based off of a true story. Well, what part of it is true? Just the Texas part? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'm just curious.
There was what I read on that, not to get into a rabbit hole, but the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was actually based on, I think it was an English serial killer.
Okay. I think did we talk about this before?
We did.
I thought we did. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think we did. Yeah.
So I think that component of Texas Chainsaw Massacre is probably where, they're saying based on a true story. It's based off of an actual serial killer that ate people and, that whole thing. But, to take place in, some Iowa or somewhere, wherever that
Texas,
Texas.
Somewhere in Texas, some weird rundown small town. I don't know, man.
I highly doubt it.
I mean, I guess for the sake of the movie, it definitely sets that tone, right? Like out of, in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. And, but anyways.
Yeah. It gives off that Iowa cornfield Slipknot vibe.
It does, man.
Yeah.
So like I was saying, it had been a while since I'd seen it. I always liked this movie. Rewatching this, Barbara Hershey's fantastic in this.
She is.
I mean, dude, we know she's the star of the movie, but she stills it, dude. I mean, she kills this thing. Like, I would almost go as far as, and I didn't look this up, and I know the Academy, dude, the performance was as good as, like, you give me an Oscar nod. That's how good this was.
I felt.
Right?
Absolutely.
And Phil, the doctor, played by Ron Silver. I've always liked him. They dominate this movie. They're both really good, but she stills it, man.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Her reactions to everything are just exactly as you would expect, somebody going through something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like subtle things too. I remember like, I think it was literally the first assault in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Because, again, back to your point on like, I appreciate also, like Poltergeist did that. Like Poltergeist took no more than 10 minutes to start ramping up to a thing. And I appreciate that.
Yes.
And so did this movie. But I think it was the same or the first assault where she's at her
little vanity.
Mm-hmm. And she's, she's combing her hair, getting ready for bed. And she actually looks and like, you could tell that she can sense something is, and then all of a sudden, she gets smacked in the face by something that's not there, and it was just her reaction was completely believable to me, and so, she did a wonderful job with that.
It's gotta be tough. Like from, like I've never done any sort of acting or plays or anything. So to kind of get into that mode and be convincing at the same time is really, I mean, that's got to be difficult, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you wonder how, what's occurring off camera, like what sort of cues are being given off camera for an actor, to deliver. Yeah.
I don't know, man. That's tough. But, I was thinking about this. So, okay. So, the first 5 minutes they're painting this picture of her. So, she looks like she works a full-time, probably, I don't know, meaningless job. She goes to school at night where I found this interesting. Okay. And this to me is Spanx of the time frame.
Oh yeah.
She's taking a typing class and this whole classroom is filled with women and they're all doing typing. And I'm like, Jesus, this really Spanx of the time.
Oh yeah.
Because what you're telling these women is the only job. Yeah. It's very sexist. The only job you're going to get is a secretary typing.
Yep.
Dude, I was a little offended. Look, it's 1982. I was a little offended by it.
It's one, I was too. You had to sort of kind of jump on there. I was absolutely offended also. But then I think I realized that, the time that this movie came out in, if we were in 1982 watching that movie for the first time, we lived through that. Now, that doesn't make it right.
Yeah.
But you are a product of the time period you're living in.
Yeah.
And in any given moment, in any given time period, you are in that moment. That was what it was like. And so, unfortunately, many people didn't even stop to even consider that was offensive or
true. I mean, I don't know. I think watching it from today's goggles, I was like, it really just kind of jumped out at me. I was like,
absolutely.
It's like what all she can do is just be a secretary.
Yeah. And actually, did you notice what she was typing?
I read it. What did it say?
It said something to the effect of like, being a good typist leads to high paying jobs. And she typoed and put jubs. And that was what made her go, and like,
okay. No, I didn't see that part. I
thought that was kind of funny.
That's funny, man. Yeah. It's just, they immediately paint this picture that I don't know, man. Look, I mean, she struggles, right?
Oh yeah.
She's a single.
She's doing her thing though, man.
She is. I mean, works during the day, school at night, comes home, three kids, she's a single mom. The son appears to be in high school, but he looks like he's 25. To me, that was a weird casting for me. Like
was he in high school? I thought he was out of high school, but just living with mom.
No, because remember the letter that came in the mail was from his counselor.
Oh,
and so that Spanx a high school. So maybe he's 17 maybe 17-ish, but dude, he looked like he was 20. It looked like they could, I don't know, man. It was super odd to me.
It's true. I did like him though.
I did too. I did like him. The two girls, honestly, they don't really focus on them. They mainly focus more on the son than the girls. And, but yeah, man, she's doing her thing. She comes home and it's like, long day and the house is a mess and the fridge is open and do you think that this was just a random poltergeist that attached itself to her just because, or did you felt that she was vulnerable because of everything she's going through, similar to Regan and Linda Blair in The Exorcist? It was, what are your thoughts?
I think that all of those things could be occurring at, you know what I mean? I think all things equal, this could have just been a random, she got selected by this entity, maybe it was a sexual thing. Maybe that's all it was. But the movie goes out of its way throughout to introduce an alternative to what may be happening. There's a lot of psychology that they've interwoven into this movie to explain an alternative. And so it could be that, they made sure that the audience understands that her upbringing, her father was a minister who actually, sexually abused her.
Yeah.
And he was one of those devout ministers that use thee and thou and, all this crazy stuff.
Yeah.
That's going to do a lot of psychological damage to a kid.
True.
So the end result to all of this is, in a psychology, you're gonna go out there seeking that positive male influence. You're going to be seeking the father figure.
Which she clearly has.
Oh,
here.
Yeah. Well, look at the guy that she was dating. I forget his name in the movie. But Jerry. There you go.
God damn, he looked like he was 50-something.
Easily 15 years, 20 years older.
Yeah, because she was 32, I think.
I think so.
Then, he had to have
been in his mid to late 50s.
Yeah.
So she's seeking that positive, father figure, the father she didn't have as a kid, as to compensate from an sexually abusive father. So a lot of this could be a manifestation of those things.
Yeah.
From her perspective, obviously it's not.
It's not. Yeah. And if you think about it, as the movie plays out, people slowly start to experience other, things that are happening to her. And so it's not like,
correct.
Cause for a while you could think, okay, well, maybe she is a little nutto, but then, the son gets attacked. Yep. The daughter see it, her friend sees it,
Right.
So the doctor, Phil, he's adamant. He is adamant. This is just all in your head. And I guess from his standpoint, the type of doctor he is, he can't see past that other,
It's also a product of its time.
Yeah.
In 1982, the whole parapsychology, was extremely frowned upon in academic circles, So I think they did a good job conveying that, the bulk of academia considers that field of psychology to be just completely stupid. And
they did. There were several discussions with Phil and I think his mentor, whatever this other guy was, and it's like,
I think he was the head of the psychiatry in
some department. At the university.
And, he just, the Phil guy, he came across as, one of those scientist guys, a psychiatrist, field of, psychiatrists. It just refused or just was unable to see outside of his blinders.
Yeah.
To what if?
Yeah.
And
I started getting super super frustrated. It's like, Jesus, dude, how many different things has to happen to this woman for you to finally believe her?
You know,
Like, it was literally like almost towards the end of the movie before
here's an interesting thing. I felt that there was a moment where he actually was on her side. Well, I don't want to say on her side, because he did have her best interests at heart. But more, I think the closest he came to actually believing possibly something was going on there was when they all met. Remember that in the room?
Yes.
And then I think she had to leave. And during the scene after she left, all the other psychiatrists around the room actually talked him off the ledge.
True. Yeah. Yeah. That powwow, wasn't that kind of reminiscent of The Exorcist? That totally reminded me of that.
Absolutely.
It totally reminded me of that. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I didn't think, because they were almost laughing at her and just very disrespectful. And these are professionals and just very disrespectful, like.
Well, one of them was also smoking a big giant stogie.
He was, but yeah, there was definitely like, look, I know he was looking out for her, but he was also attracted to her.
Yep.
Yep. And I almost think at times that got in the way. It's like, I'm interested kind of into this woman and I don't want this stuff to be real, because then I don't know. It was almost like it throws like some wrench in the mix. I don't know. It was just weird to me.
Yeah. And what's interesting about that is, the movie didn't go out of its way at all to I don't know, make that an actual thing. Which was very under the surface.
Yes.
You could tell that he had an attraction to her a little bit there, but they,
which was good. I think the way they played this was appropriate.
Yep.
So, did you notice, and before we kind of maybe talk about some stuff that we like, because we don't need to dissect this whole thing.
No.
You familiar with Brian De Palma, the director?
Yeah.
There are a lot of good movies he did, but in particular Carrie and Dressed. There's a lot. And I was watching this movie and going, just some of these camera angles just spanked at Brian De Palma. And I don't know, it was just something I had recognized when I watched the movie, because, watching a Brian De Palma movie, he has this very specific directing style, and he's very creative with his camera angles and shots. And I don't know, I enjoyed it, but I felt like, wow, it's almost like they were ripping them off. It was just very strange. And I ended up doing some research, and I was hoping to find like, hey, the guy who directed this, they were buddies or roommate, nothing like that. But
so it's interesting that I'm going to go ahead and take this moment, because you just, mentioned like, oh, did they rip off this guy's like style of, camera angles or whatever, to talk about there's a music piece.
Okay.
So then I looked it up. I wanted to know which one came first. Mm-hmm. So this movie came first.
Okay.
Every time the entity, ghost, whatever it was, would present itself, there was this music in the background, and it was almost exactly what you hear in Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh,
almost exactly. Nightmare on Elm Street is a little tiny bit different.
Yeah.
Probably enough to just, be able to say, okay, well, I didn't copy, there's no copyright problems here. But, but Wes Craven absolutely lifted it from this.
Which we've talked about Craven, who we felt lifted a lot of the Elm Street stuff from Phantasm. We talked about this in the because there's like some dream sequences in Elm Street that spank of Phantasm.
And we'll be doing Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, I think you and I are going to do it the next episode. So we can talk about that
for sure. But go back. I don't know, if you get a minute, go back and listen to.
All right.
It's whenever the ghost presents itself. Every single time, almost every single time during this movie, I can't describe the background music. It's this really eerie, subtle kind of, and it is so reminiscent of Nightmare on Elm Street.
Interesting. Did you look to see if the same people scored the same guy
I did not.
I just wonder. I mean, I doubt it. But I just wonder. You know, it's like, oh, we were roommates or something. And I just
Right.
wonder how that, like I don't know. Is it like a kind of an unwritten thing where I don't know, man. Do people just kind of borrow little snippets and it's okay, or is it frowned upon?
So,
Because you know, I mean,
I've always maintained
Yeah.
that there is no more original art. Everything has been done. It's now a variation on a theme. So artists absolutely take inspiration from other artists,
Yeah.
and all you have to do is change a certain amount of it to make it your own thing. So I think that's what's going on here.
Yeah. And you know, just in case, I mean, you know, our listeners out there, everyone has to remember Darren does all the music, so he is going to something like that. He's going to notice a lot better than I will. You know, not to mention, you know, you've done music. God, man, I mean, a lot,
Yeah.
good chunk of your life.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
you know, I know you've done an album. I think you're working on another one. So, you know, so you're going to catch something like that better than I will for sure. I'm just curious, you know,
So I'm looking it up right now as
because Elm Street was 84.
it was. Yeah.
You know, this is 82. In fact, I thought they had maybe made it closer to 81 and pushed it back a little bit because I think Poltergeist came out.
So get this. The music for both of these movies.
Yeah.
Charles Bernstein.
Oh my gosh. There you go.
Yep.
There you go.
So there was actually no a copyright issue at all.
It's just
this is a scenario where a music composer ripped himself off.
Yeah.
Basically.
Why not, man?
Yeah.
Why not? Because I mean, you know, I don't think it was so blatant that it's absolutely the same. No, he just did some similar stuff.
Yep. He basically developed that piece of music for this movie. Okay. And then when he was contracted to do the Nightmare on Elm Street music, he probably sat down and was like, you know what? That's absolutely works over here. And what I remember is that he added a couple of additional layers of sound on Nightmare on Elm Street, but the base layer is the entity music.
Look, I mean, I will go out and say this. Both scores are fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Because I mean, Elm Street, which we'll talk about, you know, next episode, dude, I mean, that is a phenomenal score.
Yes.
It sets the tone, man.
Yeah.
It, you know, so it's funny. I was reading something on this, you know, like you hop onto IMDb and you type in the entity and I was reading just little tidbits. Quentin Tarantino, which he always seems to come up in most of our episodes, he snuck in part of the score from the entity in Inglourious Bastards.
Really?
Yeah. I've only watched Inglourious Bastards once because it's not one of my favorites. I'm not a big fan of it.
Yeah.
Some people love it and just they think it's just a phenomenal movie. Me, I was bored to hell with it. I was just you know.
There were aspects of it I liked. By and large, it was a bit slow.
You know, and I know with the Quentin movies, sometimes it's just gonna be a lot of dialogue and slow burn, but this it bored me. It bored me, but yeah, I'd read that. So, anyways,
interesting.
Yeah. So, I don't know, man. I mean, we could talk about some of the stuff that we liked. You know, I didn't realize I was watching the credits. Stan Winston did the makeup for this. Stan Winston, as a lot of people know, is, I mean, considered one of the greatest special effects makeup person. I think he died, you know, years ago, but I mean, he's responsible for like some of the Aliens, Terminators, Jurassic Park, Leviathan. You know, he's done some great stuff. Yeah. Didn't realize he had worked on this.
No.
My guess is I didn't look this up, but he probably did the bust because, you know, you have her when she is being sexually assaulted.
Yeah.
They built this like prosthetic, I guess, almost like her head is real, but everything else is not. It's like
you
this
talking
body.
About the scene when she was laying on the bed and being groped and Jerry comes in?
Well, really all of it. Anytime that she's being touched.
Got it.
And it looks like it's being pressed, like her breasts are being, pressed. my guess is he probably created this. I mean, because it's a really effective. I hate to say effective effect,
Right.
but it's very effective. It looks pretty real.
Yeah.
Nowadays they would do it completely different. They wouldn't probably do something like this these days.
They wouldn't.
If they did, they'd really dance around it and just more imply it.
Yeah.
But in the early 80s, they did stuff like this, and it looks really good. I mean, she looks like she is being groped and sexually assaulted. I'm going to stay away from the R word.
Yeah.
And so, because rewatching it, you could see her head looked real, and the other stuff looked pretty good.
There was something a little off.
Yeah.
Especially during that one scene.
Yes.
When Jerry comes in.
Yeah.
When she was like, like, please help, or please, whatever she was saying. Yeah. There's something didn't quite.
Her head was right, and the body was just as real. But it still looked pretty good for
1982.
For the time, it looked pretty good.
Yeah.
And the helplessness that she felt, like, it's funny. I was thinking about earlier in the year, Donovan and I did The Invisible Man, which is a really good movie. If anyone hasn't seen it, it's really good. But how helpless and horrible to feel like you can't. There's something there, but no one can see it, and you can't almost do anything about it.
Yeah,
and it's just a helpless feeling, and it's just like her going through this, and then the fact that no one believes her. They think she's crazy. She starts to almost, think that she's crazy, and it's just horrible, man.
Yeah. And I wanted was like middle of the movie, maybe a little bit, when finally she's at her friend's house.
Yeah, Cindy.
Cindy. And Cindy and her husband.
Yeah,
they take off to go somewhere,
like a party or something.
They're going to come back, and it was only then, like once her friend actually saw the thing, and then once that happens, then it's like I don't know. There's a breakthrough moment there where and I think she again back to what an awesome job she did, acting. You really felt like that. It was like a weight lifted off of her, and she could do nothing but just sit there and like do that half cry, half laughing kind of thing because you finally you're not going crazy. Somebody else actually saw this thing.
Yeah, because the friend even said, "I thought you were nuts."
Yeah, yeah,
and all the windows being blown out. I mean, and then
I thought that lady's husband was a dick.
He's an asshole, man. She could have done a lot better. But I mean, it's very powerful, man. Like you said, it's a very powerful scene. She nails it. Because I think too, there might have been a little bit of doubt still in her head that maybe this thing isn't happening and it's all me. And then it's like, no, it's vindicated by all these things. And you've now witnessed it. And I think the scene with the son was, I think it was prior to this, and he went through it, man. I mean, he had like this, what was this, like almost like electricity coming out of him, like these
Emperor Palpatine. Right? Electricity. That's what it reminded me of.
Yeah. And for its time, it was whatever. I mean, it was a little hokey when he was trying, the whole, how do I convey that I'm trying to get to my mom, but I'm being pushed back. Like she was believable. He really wasn't. It's fine.
No, he had his hands up too high.
It was weird.
It was kind of a weird thing. Yeah.
I let it go though, man. I let it go for what it was. But
there's so many better ways to achieve that. Even some of the being thrown,
like when she was being attacked, I felt, yes, she was being attacked. Sometimes when, I think Jerry was attacked and the son was just didn't feel, I don't know. I think it just goes back to that she just did a fantastic job because she was conveying all these things and it was believable.
Yeah.
But I mean, man, I don't know what else you want to is there specific scenes that you really kind of gravitated towards, like that really jumped out more? I mean, we don't have to dissect every sexual assault. I will tell you this, the one scene, look, any sexual assault is wrong. But there was one in particular that that I felt very uncomfortable with. I was uncomfortable with all of them.
Yeah.
But the one when she was asleep and she
Yeah,
quickly orgasmed afterwards.
She had an orgasm, man.
And that one I felt just
because there was an extra layer involved there, because not only was it sexual assault, but there was a trickery involved there. You know, she was asleep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, you know, the thing was doing its thing, taking advantage of a vulnerability of being asleep, you know, which forced her, you know, well, I mean, it happened. You know what I mean? Of course, she was completely ashamed at that point. I mean, that was her breaking point right there. Yeah. It was like, well, God damn it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was especially.
I was very uncomfortable with that. Yeah. I was very uncomfortable with that. And again, I just to me, it's like, it's a product of its time. That's not happening these days. Like, it's more implied than, and this was all those things happening. And it was just, I don't know, man. I kind of felt dirty afterwards, like watching this movie go, well, it's a movie, but I'm like, ew, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how else to say it. It's just, I'm shocked they went to that, I think, to that level.
Well, they had to.
Yeah.
They had to tell the story.
Yeah.
I mean, because from what I've read, that these are the accounts. Those are the specific accounts that this person, Carla, actually is claiming occurred to her. You know, now how they occurred, that's probably Hollywood embellishment.
Sure,
you know, all of that stuff. But at the core, that's what that person is claiming occurred. So, I mean, you know, to tell the story, you got to tell the story.
True. To I guess to kind of, I agree with you. I guess to kind of put your, you know, when you're making a movie and you're telling a story, you know, the idea is you need to somehow insert yourself into this person's shoes and to feel everything they were feeling, good or bad. And so yeah, I guess you're right, man. So, I just, you know, again, I'm gonna keep, just in case no one has seen this movie. We forgot to say spoilers, but in case no one, you know, has ever seen this movie and is listening to this, it's, you know, it's a little disturbing. So we're trying to paint this picture that, you know, it's a lot to take in. It's, you know,
it is. And, but, you know, but they had to tell this story exactly this way because for somebody watching it, you know, there can be so many different plausible explanations. I mean, we covered a little bit of that earlier. You know, this could have been in her head.
True.
I mean, that is possible. You know, I don't know that we know for sure that, you know, friends of hers witnessed stuff too, or whatever. Maybe they did, you know. I would assume that probably the kids, or specifically her son, probably that is a true account. I'm sure the son probably did, you know, witness stuff or whatever. But I mean,
I believe the scene with the son, I believe it happened very similar to that.
Yeah. But I mean, can you rule out, like, if you're objective, okay, so you're not biased, you don't know this person, you have no vested interest in this person whatsoever, so you're a complete objective witness, can you rule out the idea that the son, you know, loves his mom and is just sharing in her traumatic experience and saying, you know, you just don't really know.
Yeah.
You know, and as an objective witness, you have to consider those possibilities.
Sure. Where he's just sticking up for his mother. Yeah. If my mom believes it, then I believe it.
Absolutely, because she's my mother, and so there, suck it. You know, so you have to, as an objective viewer, you have to consider these things. I mean, in everything. I mean, not even just this movie. I mean, you're talking about ghost stuff, and we're talking about what has not been proven and what we generally speaking can't see. And even in 2020, We still don't have any real definitive proof of anything other than what we can see, the tangible stuff.
Yeah.
You know, there are moments where the veil creaks open a little bit and you know, but for every explanation of that has to be a ghost or it has to be a, you know, there's usually also some other plausible explanation. And this movie had to go down that disturbing rabbit hole, that filthy rabbit hole, if you will, in order to explore the psychology of it. You know, because without that, what do we have?
Yeah.
If you took away all of her character development in the story, what we know of her, if you took away all of that stuff and you were just left with a person being sexually assaulted by a ghost, you don't have the same sort of, you know, you're not feeling it in the same way.
Yeah.
You know, you're not looking at the story. You're not really absorbed in the story in the same way. It's just sort of surface.
Yeah.
So it had to go down those holes. And one of those holes, unfortunately, it had to go down for the audience to really feel, because everyone's had an orgasm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's a very vulnerable place to be in. And there's got to be a lot of trust there for that. Okay.
Yeah.
And for there to be a violation on that, you know, and then she has to convey that. And that was her tipping point, because she literally just tore apart a room.
She did. She made a point to break all the mirrors. And I think it was more of,
she was ashamed of herself
and didn't want to. Yeah. That's what I got. And so, I mean, like I said, they did a great job doing it. It's just, I'm going to keep reiterating. I just felt very uncomfortable watching it. Man.
It's very uncomfortable subject
and
matter.
I think everyone should feel that way watching it. I mean, if you don't, you got fucking problems. You need to go get help. But you know, I just, you know, just in case, I just want to make sure anyone going into this blind and not knowing, it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. So, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you really feel for her. I mean, I did.
Oh, I did.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And yeah, it's just, oh man. You know, it's the helplessness. It's like, you know,
but then she had like she had that turning point for herself, you know, where, you know, it had happened for so long or whatever. And now other people, you know, had witnessed things, you know, and she had this acceptance moment where she was like, you know what, whatever, you can do whatever you want. Keep doing this. I don't care, but you're not going to have me, you know, not truly.
Let me ask you a question. And I could be way off base. It's just something I was thinking about when I was watching this, and I'm probably wrong, but I start, you know, the wheels start turning.
Yeah.
You know, when she's telling Phil's character, Ron Silver, the actor, about her, you know, her dad and you know, the her previous relationships and some of them being deceased. At any time, did you think that these poltergeists or entity could have been, say, I don't know, her father, you know, her the you know, the guy who had passed away? I think he had died in.
It was her first husband.
Yeah, I don't know. It came to me like, is that possible? Like, because I mean. Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, why now? Why? I mean, again, for the purpose of the movie, you know, something has to take place. But I mean, she's 32 and hadn't gone through this before, and I don't know. I mean, it's possible, right? I don't know if that was the case, but it's possible.
Yeah, look, in the movie itself, no, I mean, they make no reference whatsoever to what exactly this entity is or whatever. Yeah. Because it apparently had help. She mentioned they were like two smaller.
That was weird to me too. Like what did you?
So see, okay, that is what made me believe that, you know, that she didn't truly, that maybe this wasn't anybody that she knew in her past, you know, whatever. That this was just truly like some just evil, vile thing. You
because
know
we know the main one is big, hulking, strong and smells.
Right.
But is it a smell that like a dirty ass person would smell like, or is this, we've seen in movies and we've heard when there is a presence,
usually it's a demon.
It's a demon. Yeah. There's a smell. Wasn't a demon. This is a ghost.
Well, we don't know.
Well, I guess it's true. We don't know. Could have been a demon.
Well, absolutely.
It's because they smell when the two guys, and I can't remember their names. I thought it was like, God, maybe it was Gene and Joe, when she meets them at like, maybe it was the library. Was it the library or was it a bookstore? And
it was a bookstore.
Okay. So they come in to the house and they don't believe her at first. And then they witness it themselves and they smell it. They smell that, the stuff starts shaking almost like an earthquake and they get that stench, So to me, it wasn't like a stench of body odor. It was a stench of like death, So.
Yeah. I was trying to look up here, what the classical definition of entity is.
And I just wonder, I mean, because I know we saw it in The Exorcist, the smell. I mean, I think it's one of those tropes that seems, and again, I don't know if it's true or not, but in the aspect of, say, a horror movie, it's used a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm curious. I just, is it a ghost? Is it a demon? Is it both? I mean, I don't know. I don't know if there's some set rule, But anyways, I mean, she, That's this character, and I don't understand the whole help thing. Who friggin' knows, man? I don't know,
Yeah.
Does it say anything?
Not really.
Not
and
really.
I don't feel like going down a million links trying to drill down on that. But for me personally, I got the impression that based on the evidence at hand, based on what we watched, that this thing was some sort of foul demon thing. That was the impression I got based on, sudden freezing cold temperatures, foul smell, and obviously powerful. I mean, like a ghost has got to be extremely powerful to start making shit happen in the physical world.
Yes,
and that thing seemed to be pretty.
What were your thoughts about freezing the thing? What did you think? I felt it was pretty. I thought it was pretty hokey, and I don't know. It lost a little for me when she was at the university in this gym, and they almost reconstructed her apartment or whatever, or house. I'm sorry, and and then they were gonna freeze it. And I'm like, really? Like, is that I don't know enough about it, but I don't know, man.
It almost gave me this. This idea, because again, keep in mind it's like 1982. Wasn't that was like Terminator times, right?
Terminator was 81.
Yeah.
I don't know. I could be wrong, but yeah, around Terminator. Yeah.
So it gave me this fear of technology vibe.
Okay.
Because obviously the entity shows up and it takes over the guns.
Yeah.
Those the liquid helium guns that were set up around in order to freeze it.
Yeah.
It takes them over and it starts like hunting her kind of little Terminator style. It just gave me this like weird, I don't know, like because back in the early 80s there was sort of that. I mean,
there was,
technology was, still kind of new. I mean, that was right at the beginning of like, computer stuff, and we were also new to computers and
God damn, dude. How far have we come? I remember when I lived with my grandparents and Glenn, my uncle Glenn had this, I don't even remember what it was, dude. And I remember trying to play, remember the game Zaxxon?
Oh yeah.
and trying to play it, and it was like a weird floppy disk. I could never figure out the game, and dude, it was just.
Was it like a Texas Instrument?
Probably, yes. Yeah,
TSR-80, I think.
Something weird,
like
and
made out of stainless steel, and like
yeah. And now just fast forwarding, fuck, dude, 40 years, and it's just where we're at, and I don't know, just I guess gaming as a whole, and how I remember getting my Atari and playing it and thinking how friggin' awesome it was, and then now I watched, I don't know, man, I think the game that we talk about is say Cyberpunk 2077, and I look at visually and the graphics, and I'm like, and I don't play these games. I don't, because as you know, I have very little patience, man. I want like one button to shoot, and then maybe thing where I can move around, and it's just so overwhelming. But how far we've come, and it blows my friggin' mind, man.
It's crazy.
It's nuts, dude.
So yeah, to sort of expand on what you were saying. Yeah, I agree with you. I felt that last sequence in the gymnasium, and at that university where they reconstructed her house. Well, the one thing that I got out of that was, like in ghost phenomenon, it's either like a ghost is attached to a place, or it's attached to a person.
Yes.
And we now know this entity was not a poltergeist of any kind. It was something other than a poltergeist, because poltergeists typically are attached to a place,
like a
location.
Sure, yeah.
This thing was attached to her, and it didn't matter where the hell she went.
No,
it was attached to her. So we established that, and that, at least for the sequence for me did good there. Yeah, I thought it was hokey after that.
It was super hokey for me. Like I had to look past it. It was a span of 5 or 10 minutes. So I tried. So it was bad though.
So here's what sort of annoyed me from more of like a, I don't know, maybe a story hole issue, or not really story hole. There was that safe space that.
Yeah.
Okay. And then once she got in it triggered that glass enclosure thing, right? They made it a point to talk about how it's like double pane glass with like thermal inside and the, with the heat shield and the, and then when it came down to it and she ran finally eventually in there because the entity had gotten control of the liquid helium guns. She goes in there, it slams shut. She's all like, okay, we're like, yeah, it's good. That shield thing, that glass enclosure took all of maybe 4 seconds worth of the liquid helium to like completely shatter.
It did.
It's like, okay, really?
Yeah, it did. I was trying to let that go, or the fact that this thing was spraying throughout the house, and dude, if this was really this liquid, whatever, dude, she would. Because it hit her several times. Well, it almost looked like a fog that she ran into.
That was the weird thing. Now, I don't know, and I'm not a scientist. I've never used liquid helium. Does it come out looking like fog juice from your Halloween?
Yeah.
Does it come out looking like that?
I don't know. I don't know if it does. But again, it's like, like when we talk about any horror movie, you just have to sometimes ignore shit. It can bother us so we can talk about it. But for the sake of the movie, it's like, okay.
I guess we got to give it a little bit of a pass. The whole thing in general was hokey. We can agree on that.
We can. Like honestly, the whole gymnasium thing, dude, I was just.
Plus, I'm not sure that, okay, getting past all of that, I'm not sure. Again, I don't know, but it doesn't seem to me that you could freeze a ghost. I don't know if you could do that.
This ain't Scooby-Doo. I don't know.
Right?
I don't know if the gang ever froze a ghost in an episode.
Seriously.
But yeah, this is where it just, like I said, if we could remove that 10 minutes of that, it's still
I don't know what Okay, I don't know what a climax of this movie would look like other than that, though. I don't know what it would be.
I don't know. I I really don't. I don't. Sitting here talking about it, I don't have some alternative.
They turned the thing into an ice sculpture, man. I mean,
it did. It just looked bad. It looked like early '80s special effects. I mean,
if anything good came out of that scene, at least the other folks over in the legitimate side of the psychiatric department witnessed it.
Yeah, then the one old fucking fart was trying to, well, I saw something, but I don't. I'm like, dude, really? You know what you saw, but
Okay, interesting. I didn't have a problem with that. And I'll tell you why I didn't have a problem with that. It was because of an earlier conversation that occurred between he and Phil.
Okay.
Where, when Phil catches wind that the paranormal department is going to do this experiment or whatever, he goes over to his head, the head guy.
Yeah.
And he's griping and he's complaining and he's like, we got to do something. We got to shut that down or whatever, blah, 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 And the older guy, the head of the department is like, yeah, well, you've got a thing or two to learn about campus politics.
That is true. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I think this guy just toed the line. He saw it.
Okay.
He knows he saw it. He knows what he saw and he knows he can't explain it. And he knows that there is something that has just occurred there, but there's no way in hell he is going to admit that. So he's gonna pull the Ronald Reagan, thing, oh, well, I saw something, it certainly was interesting. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about it that way. Yeah, I was just like frustrated. I'm like, really, dude, you know what you saw. The thing is this, you could at least acknowledge it to them. And then outside, you're like, whatever, I.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah. Like you and I agree. It was hokey. I don't know what they could have done differently. Like, I mean, look, if we sat down for you and I for half an hour, I bet we could have come up with a scene that probably would have been better, but whatever. It is what it is. Let's get to the ending here. I had an issue with this and I'm curious to see if you did. She leaves the gym. She walks home and she rolls into the house. They're moving. Okay. And then the door shuts and it says, welcome home, cunt. I don't like to say the C word, but
yeah, but that's what the movie said.
Yeah, dude, what did you feel? I had an issue with this. And again, I think this was Hollywood. We don't hear any voices at all through this movie. Why now?
Yeah.
Why? I had an issue with it, dude. Look, close the doors, shake shit up. Whatever. But why the voice? It lost it for me, man.
No, it's true. Okay. I hadn't pondered that, but I'm formulating now as you've just brought this to the table. My short answer is agreed. There was not any foundation throughout the movie.
Thank you.
To support being talked to or talked at by this entity. Okay, so for that to occur at the very end is like, really? Okay, agreed. Now, from a filmmaker, storyteller's perspective, I'm thinking, why would they choose that? And the only thing I can come up with is they didn't know any real solid good way other than actually having this thing speak to her and what it said to her to convey, like, nice try, bitch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, how do you convey this entity going like, yeah, you thought you got me.
Yeah.
How do you do that with the shaking of the room and, like, you know what I mean? Like, so I feel like as a storytelling to make sure the audience knows that the ghost is now full of spite and pissed off and is like going like, you thought that I think the only way they could convey that is to, but I agree. There was no foundation for this thing. And
yeah, if early in the film it happened once or twice, just, I don't know, something,
if she just heard whispers or during the assaults, it was all like whatever it did.
I don't know. Yeah, sure. Then I could tolerate it.
I think because I think it's because like now we've gotten used to that idea. And so if it came at the end, we would have no problem.
No, not at all. We wouldn't be talking about it. I mean, because the voice as a whole was creepy.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Scary.
Yeah.
Scary. To me it spanked
Sound like Freddy.
Yeah, I know, right? It reminded me of, this is what I thought in my head, is maybe they did a test screen. People hated the ending. Hey, us Hollywood heads, us higher ups, we think you should say this at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. And who knows, the filmmaker probably, the director, man, he rolls his eyes or whatever, but has to do it because, they say he does. I don't know, man. I don't know if that's the case or it was his idea. Who knows? It just was, was sloppy. I didn't like it.
To be honest with you, I would almost, to me, it's like going back to you mentioning, like, if you and I had a minute to like come up with a thing, I would almost argue that the less is more approach would be better.
Yes.
So like I could see a scenario, or I'd be happy to see the ending go something like, she goes into the house, she comes back to the house, right? It's in the evening. She comes back to the house. She goes in there. Maybe she's getting ready to go to bed or whatever it is. She goes and, lays down on the bed, and then they pan over to her vanity area or whatever. And all of a sudden it starts to shake, and then it goes black, and then credits.
Yes.
That's all you need.
I could dig that.
That's all you need.
Yeah.
Because now okay, well, here we go again.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And that's pretty much what the end little prologue said, that it still occurred to her years later, just not as frequently.
Not as frequent, not as severe. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that would have been a perfect
Absolutely, end. Man. I would have dug that. I would have been happier. Yeah. Because it's just, it just kind of ended on a, I don't know, kind of a lazy note for me.
Kind of cheesy, almost.
Cheesy, yeah. I mean, like, in Amityville, like, you hear, like, get out, weird shit. Like, dude, I'm cool with that. Like, if you've established it, but whatever, man. Look, as a whole, it's still a good movie.
Yeah.
I believe it still holds up.
It does.
Anyone, again, I'm going to keep saying this. It's, it's uncomfortable. So just so that you're aware, but it's still a good movie, man. I mean, acting is phenomenal. The music is phenomenal in this.
Yeah.
Effects are really good.
They really are.
So look, every movie we watch, dude, there's always stuff that bothers us.
Yeah.
Hell, man, Exorcist is my favorite, but I could probably find something that would bother me a little bit. To me, it's almost a perfect horror movie, but if you twisted my arm, I could probably find one or two things, so
sure.
It's there, man. So anyways, I still say, see it.
Definitely.
See it. But again, be warned. It's the subject matter is a little. But no, it definitely it is. I'm surprised how well it's held up. It's good, man.
Like, you can't say the same thing for Hellraiser.
No. You cannot say the same thing for Hellraiser. That's a discussion for another day. I think we have talked about that a few times on the podcast.
Yes, we have.
It doesn't hold up, man. I mean, look, the makeup's great, man, but no, it doesn't. It doesn't. Yeah. And I think I've heard they're rebooting that franchise. I don't know, man. I stopped at like part 3. That was enough for me. I don't know if they got like 20 other ones. Who friggin' knows anymore, man. Yeah. But anyways, anything else, man?
No, I think
we kind of hit everything.
We did. Yeah.
Check it out. We've warned you. We warned you what the what the movie's about and the content. It's very unsettling.
It is.
It's very unsettling.
Yep.
But check it out. I think that'll do it for us. Hey man, thanks again for rolling on out and appreciate it. And anyways, everyone else, take care.
Yeah.
2020 is almost over.
Thank God.
Thank God. We know the vaccine's here.
Yeah. Yeah. My wife got her first dose.
She did.
In case the audience, she's not a prima donna or anything. She's a nurse. So this frontline healthcare worker.
That's right. So if Tyra, I don't think Tyra ever listens, but we appreciate everything that she does.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely, man. And she's taken dose number 1 and in
21 days or
21 days she'll get dose number 2 and
and then she'll be glowing green.
Yep. So anyways, everyone else out there, take care and stay safe and all that other good stuff.
Yeah. Take care, guys.
Thanks again for listening. Make sure you tell everyone about our Ear for Fear podcast. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Ear for Fear. You can also check out our website, earforfear.com. There you can keep up to date on news, events, and episodes. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts. We hope you come back and get an earful.